saying. So I just want to play one more thing here.
Quo. On the side of governmental regulation, the number one challenge here that we see and is, of course, the First Amendment in the United States is a fairly robust protection of rights, and that is a protection of rights both for platforms, which I actually think is very important, that platforms have those rights to be able to regulate what kind of content they want on their sites. But it also means that it is a little bit tricky to really address some of the real challenges of where does bad information come from, and sort of the influence peddlers who have made a real market economy around it. So I think that there are interventions, things like political ad regulation, advertising, the sort of dark space of click-based advertising writ large are real opportunities in that space. But in the sort of general sort of media speech space, I think that is really tricky, and we don't have a lot of good theorizing around what would work there.
So
we don't have a lot of good theorizing
for how to deal with getting rid of the First Amendment.
Right.
I mean that's amazing. I mean, if that was done, you could act out that in Dr. Evil style language, and it would sound completely different. But the way she presented it, it sounded, as you said, it sounds like she's saying something that's sort of beyond dispute, and just sort of understood by everybody. But that's an incredibly controversial, crazy thing to say, and she just sort of rattled it off.
Oh, to me, the telltale word was theorizing. She leaves a question open because there isn't a lot of good theorizing yet on that. But when she gets good theorizing, she'll be able to settle it, apparently. And what is this thing called theory? Well, to be blunt about it, theory is a code word for a kind of left-leaning, Parisian, deconstructionist notion that all information encodes power relationships, and that the way to get to the meaning of a statement is to find out in what ways it encodes power. Now, what's so funny about these people who talk about theory to me is that they are usually the very powerful themselves. What they're doing is what they're accusing others of doing. In other words, they have a theory that all statements about the world are just the sum of these sort of various bigotries and power structures. So they're like, we're going to construct a new way of talking about the world that is the sum of our power structure. And they
don't say it like that. Yeah.
No, they don't say it that way, because that would reveal the not just hypocrisy, but the kind of deadly paradoxical meaninglessness of what they're doing, because she really worships power, okay? And I don't mean that as an individual. I'm saying as an intellectual, she worships power. When she talks about the rights of institutions, the right to knowledge that comes from above, and so on. And then you look at her resume, and it accords with that. This is a person who's now in charge of a domestic news source, NPR. It broadcasts to America, to the United States. But her experience is with all these international organizations, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Atlantic Council.
Yeah, so let's just take a look. Here's some of her experiences. It's NPR now, but then she was a board chair at Signal, WIEF, Young Global Leader, Council on Foreign Relations, the Atlantic Council, where she was also at the Digital Forensic Research Labs, which is their big sort of anti-disinformation unit, Truman National Security Project. And then there's this weird thing, member of the Foreign Affairs Policy Board, which is an advisory board of people at the State Department. nobody's been able to explain to me exactly what they do, but it's interesting. The World Bank, HSBC, but yeah, as you say, she's grown up in institutional America,
not just institutional America, the institutional America that deals with international relations. And I find curious that her experience is all, with international, global institutions, but her job now is to pipe that sensibility into a domestic theater. It's as though somebody who, thought mostly about the world is now going to administer the United States. It's as though somebody who comes from an imperial outside set of powers has been given a governorship over a local area.
Yeah, she's a viceroy.
Yeah. See, it's the opposite of how the news used to work, Matt. So let's say you finally got to the New York Times or whatever. Often that's because you started at the Knoxville, Tennessee local paper, okay? And you covered the city and the police beat for the local paper.
Exactly.
And then you moved up and you went from more local institutions to more general institutions, and finally you received the crown and got a job at a national one. This is the exact opposite. This is somebody who sort of worked at the most abstract, synthetic, global, and international boards, and then moved down to focus on one particular area. And as I say, the latter comes down from heaven rather than going up from the ground, which means to me that she was given this job in order to take a point of view that was developed kind of outside the United States and stick it in the United States.
Well, certainly outside the realm of news, right? I mean,
right.
So,
well, and that too. I mean, I saw her defended the other day against, Chris Rufo, a conservative activist who's been making hay with her more outrageous woke tweets.
And also with clips like the ones we just showed.
Right. And somebody said, but when she was tweeting all this, she wasn't a journalist. This is her first job in journalism. And I thought,
exactly.
Well, what? I mean, then why is her first job in journalism such a powerful one? What happened to paying your dues? But she paid her dues in another realm altogether, which is a new realm, that of the Borg. I got to put it, or whatever, what some people call the blob, or, I don't want to get bogged down in
the hive mind or whatever. Yeah.
The hive mind. So once again, just as this is a reframing of journalism as the moderation of institutional thought for the people, this is a new kind of career in which you start at these big globalist NGOs and then move down to a satrap or the local administration of a journalistic institution. She has no qualifications.
Right. And
she's never reported a story. She's never edited a story. She's never organized a team of reporters. Her experience is all with this kind of info hygiene, algorithmic, institutional formation of opinion.